Rimuru was not the only one reincarnated in this world. At the beginning, Veldora told Rimuru that it's common for people from another world to be summoned or transmigrated to this world, but he says there had never been a reincarnation before the slime. However, over the time, we discovered that there are indeed other reincarnated people in this world, and besides the reincarnated ones, there are several other worlds, and we have seen many of them in the anime. Some you didn't even know was from another world. Rimuru keeps meeting various people who come from another world just like him, and there are more than 20 people from another world in this series. So today I'm going to introduce all of them to you. And this video contains spoilers, as many of them haven't appeared in the anime yet, and others you might not even know were summoned, so watch on your own risk. And make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like to support the video. Let's start with Byakuya Araki, aka Agera. Byakuya is a reincarnated individual who arrived in this world 400 years ago and traveled until he reached the ogre's village. There he was welcomed by the ogre chief, and as a token of gratitude, he defeated a lesser dragon that was destroying the forest. From then on, Byakuya's name and praise began to spread, and soon the ogres started imitating his clothes and manners. After that, he taught them his techniques, which the ogres learned. Then he started a family, and his grandson Hakuro was born. Around 300 years ago, he died and his soul was reborn in the demon helm, reincarnating as a demon under the protection of John, the primordial yellow. Later, when Kahira becomes a servant of Rimuru, he also receives a name, becoming Agera. Now let's talk about Kaoru Yoshida. He is someone who was transmigrated to this world out of nowhere. On Earth, he was a chef, a pastry chef, and even after everything in this world, he continued to pursue his path as a cook. Despite the lack of many materials and ingredients, he kept chasing his dreams until he became a renowned chef worldwide, with nobles and royalty loving his cakes and sweets. Currently, he is in Tempest at Rimuru's invitation. Now, Shizu is the most famous of all besides Rimuru, right? Shizu's summoning was both a blessing and a curse for her. After all, she was saved and doomed by it. Leon summoned her in his attempts to summon his sister, and at the moment Shizu was summoned, she was actually saved, because she was in the middle of a bombing in Japan, meaning she could have died like her mother at any moment. However, after being summoned by Leon, having effort forced upon her was one of the worst things that could have happened, making her suffer throughout her entire life. But at the end she died happy. After all, she can rest in peace inside Rimuru's. Shogo is for sure one of the most hated transmigrated person in this series. He was a delinquent who was summoned to this world by Raizen, where the mage used his violent nature to benefit Farmus, turning him into a cruel soldier. And Shogo was very powerful with his ability, but he was equally problematic, leading him to a gruesome and bitter end. Alongside Shogo, we have Kirara and Kyoya, who were also summoned by Raizen and were horrible people just like Shogo. Similarly, both of them were very powerful, and Kirara's power was especially dangerous. After all, making people obey her commands can open up many possibilities, but in the end all of them died. Hinata, on the other hand, is a transmigrated person, not summoned to this world. In her life in Japan, Hinata was very intelligent, but unfortunately she grew up in a horrible family, just like the anime show us. So after having her family destroyed, when Hinata was planning to kill her mother as well, she was suddenly transmigrated to this world, where she met Shizu and continued her life, training with her master and then going to rebellions. Now we have Shinryusei, Shinji Tanimura and Mark Lovering, all of them outsiders who came to this world and somehow ended up in the Empire, where they become citizens and joined the army. Within the army, they become apprentices and disciples of a great mage Gadra. They were then sent to secretly investigate and attack Tempest, but their mission failed and they were captured by Rimuru. In the end, they decided to stay in Tempest after seeing how good the country is, and thus they become allies. Yuki, on the other hand, was summoned to this world. Yuki was a genius in Japan and lived a life very happy until a traffic accident killed his parents. Then, with his genius intellect, he planned to become a political and reform the society as a whole. However, he was summoned to this world by Kazarian, the demon lord that Leon Kazarian defeated to take his seat. Kazarian intended to take over Yuki's body, but it didn't work. Yuki was successfully transmigrated, with his mind in control of his body, and out of a pity for Kazarian, Yuki allowed him to live in his body until he could find a new body to him, which is currently Kagali. Now we have Alice, Kenya, Ryota, and Gale, all of them children who were summoned to this world by the Western nations during their various attempts to summon powerful beings from another world. Since they were children who would soon die due to the issues of magicals exploding in their bodies, they were discarded by the nations and then taken by Shizu at the academy in Ingratia. After that, they grew up well, being saved by Shizu and cured by Rimuru, allowing them to choose what they wanted to do with their lives. And I won't say which one, but one of them become a hero, having the hero seed or egg with themselves. Now let's talk about Leon Cromwell, the Demon Lord. Yes, the Demon Lord who summoned Shizu is also someone who came from another world. A long time ago, more than 200 years ago, Leon came to this world through a dimension rift or distortion. Basically, in this world, sometimes people are transmigrated here without reason, while some was intentionally summoned or reincarnated, and others was simply brought here out of nowhere, and Leon was one of them. He came to this world alongside with his young sister, but in the end he ended up separate from her, and in fact, the reason he keeps summoning children from another worlds, like Shizu for example, is precisely because he's searching for his sister. Now, did you know that Falgen is someone who was summoned? Falgen, who was the leader of Farmus Knights, is also a person who was summoned to this world surprisingly. From where he comes from, he was a champion with a long military history, and then he's also summoned by Raizen. But unlike the other summoned individuals, Falgen doesn't have the curse that binds his soul to the summoner because it wasn't necessary. He chose to serve Raizen willingly as a friend, thus becoming one of the powers of Farmus. Now let's talk about Chloe, because she's not like the other children who was summoned. As a child, she was transmigrated to this world through a dimensional rift, meaning that she wasn't originally summoned. However, the moment she set her foot in this world, she was then summoned by one of the Western nations. So, in other words, she was transmigrated, and upon arrival here, she was then summoned. So Chloe was basically from another world 2 times. She came here out of nowhere and then were summoned. And then, like the other children, she was abandoned due to the mana issue, and later would be saved by Shizu and Rimuru. Now, Bernie is someone you may not even know yet. He is an outsider who was born in the United States, and he was a student until he was suddenly transmigrated to this world. He was then found by Gadra, who then took him to Eastern Empire, where he joined their army. Then he would be trained by extremely powerful individuals and later assume very high positions and undertake super secret missions. And speaking of Eastern Empire, Tatsuya Kondo is another individual from another world who was a military officer. He was a second lieutenant in the Japanese Navy, but not in the Rimuru's Japan. He was from a Japan from another dimension. One day, his world was invaded by ghosts, and Kondo was sent on a kamikaze mission to attack the enemies. But instead of dying, he ended up being transported to another world within the Empire, precisely in the Emperor's Garden. From there, he joined the Empire and became one of the most important officials in the entire country. Another person who joined the Eastern Empire upon coming to this world was Mai Furuki. She was an ordinary student who was summoned to this world and was eventually found by Yuki, becoming his protege. From that moment on, she became an ally of Yuki and ended up going to Eastern Empire with her master. And going through, let's talk about Venom now, a demon who came from another world. Venom is a demon from the Diablo lineage, being one of the most peculiar demons within that lineage. In his case, he is a reincarnated individual much like Rimuru. However, instead of reincarnation as a monster or human, he was reincarnated as a demon in the demon world and started his life there. Luckily, he was born with a unique skill that helped him greatly. Interestingly, he doesn't remember much of his past life, despite being a reincarnated. Speaking of reincarnates, there is Mariabel Rotso, one of the characters who will be villains and enemies of Rimuru in this 3rd season. She was reincarnated as a princess of Silt Rotso, born into one of the most powerful families in the entire West. She was very greedy, intelligent, as well as rational and calculating, Using her past knowledge and her position as a princess of Siltroso, she plays a significant role in the schemes her family and country are currently involved in. And speaking of Rotso family, there is Glenda Atlee, a mercenary from another world, who was summoned by the Rotso family and cursed by them to serve them without being able to disobey. In fact, she was infiltrated rebellions precisely on the orders of Rotso family. Now we have Masayuki, who is somewhat unique. Masayuki is indeed a young man who suddenly came from Japan to this world, not through summoning, but through transmigration. The thing is, although he is transmigrated, he was actually a reincarnated in Japan, so he kind of just returned to his original world without knowing it. In other words, Masayuki transmigrated to his original world, since he was reincarnated in Japan. So he's sort of a transmigration and sort of a reincarnation, sort of originally belonging to this world and sort of belonging to Japan. So yeah, it's complicated to explain without giving spoilers, and Masayuki is very unique. And for the last, we finally have Rimuru Tempest, our beloved slime. And of course, I don't have to explain because everyone knows the history of the slime, after all, he's the protagonist. And that is it, all the people from another world in Tensura. Subscribe the channel to support my work and leave a like to support the video. Comment below your thoughts about it and let's discuss. Now, bye bye.